Thank you for staying with us. We are live on YouTube. It is ABC News GH. Now let's get into our stories for this afternoon. The flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, has stated that a vote for the NPP is a vote for a brand new president with fresh ideas to solve Ghana's challenges. In contrast, he described the vote for the National Democratic Congress, NDC, for the National Democratic Congress's candidate, John Mahama, as a vote for a second-hand failed president. Dr. Bawumia made these remarks during a community engagement on Wednesday as part of his tour of the Ofuansi constituency in the Eastern region.
Move to Mamia. Midday, Minyendi president Penwo. Me a vice president, Enyasa. Minyendi president, Ejuma Meye Inina. Mayano as vice president. Minyenya president. Enti move to Mamia. Mubenya brand new tier robber president. Ubenya brand new tier robber president. Na omampenye daradia move to mamna na mwanya second hand failed president. Second hand failed president. Na brand new na mope anase second hand. Brand new anase second hand. Brand new anase second hand. Yani amope brand new dia. Mumvoti Emma Dr. Bawumia na mumvoti ma Ojojo op.
Still on the NPP, the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party NPP, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, also stated that there will be a one constituency, one astroturf policy to ensure that every constituency in the country is provided with sporting facilities. He made these remarks as part of his tour of the Ofuansi constituency in the Eastern region.
Yaba abaimuna astrotef Ghana hangina na eye 3 miensa kwa the whole of Ghana astrotefs ye miensa and then astrotefs ye 150 in Ghana 150 Ofuansi ye bi musumu wabako enyasa Yen everyone and say air kono yen one constituency one astroturf. Ubia benyebi. Said there ubienya district hospitals, ubienya ambulance, ubienya free SHS, ubienya free TVET, sana MPP, yebu omayi.
Still on elections, today marks day 3 of the Electoral Commission's nationwide voter exhibition exercise. Well, the Electoral Commission commenced the nationwide voter exhibition exercise some 3 days ago. They have opened the album for Ghanaians who are eligible to vote to come and check the album for their names and make sure that everything is captured correctly inside the album ahead of the December 7 elections. So Ghanaians are entreated to go to their polling stations to check for their names, check for the correct arrangement, the correct spelling, and how it is captured in the album ahead of the elections. If there are certain discrepancies, they will look at it and they will be addressed. Let's take a report from my colleague Lisa.
Polling stations have reported low attendance, raising concerns among election officials. The voter exhibition exercise is a significant part of the electoral process, allowing registered voters to confirm that their details are accurately captured. However, the turnout on the first day has been surprisingly low. Only a handful of voters have come in to check their details. Joyce Ananfiu, an exhibition officer here at La Dadikotopon, urged constituents to swiftly check their names before the exhibition ends on 27th August.
And please, I'm urging everyone in this constituency to come and check his or her name, because this exercise will end on 27th. That is next week.
Tete, another EC official, expressed disappointment in the turnout of the day as he was expecting a total number of 645.
I'm expecting voters of 645 people, but now I only have only 8.
ABC News Ghana took to the streets to find out from constituents if they were aware of the voters' exhibition exercise and if they have checked their details, and this is what they had to say.
I've heard that it's an ongoing exhibition exercises at the various polling station centers, and of which I'm not sure I'll be going because of time.
I've checked my name, and I'm urging everyone here in this community to come and check his or her name.
Based on my personal observation, I realized that the timing, especially on campus, it's not proper because as at now, school is going on vacation. The students, they've left. So how would they check?
Media, I'll check my name, whether it's in the voters register or not, I'll check it. But the voting there is not something that I'm going to vote on.
Consent.
Still on elections-related matters, pressure seems to mount on the NDC to reconsider its decision of not appending a signature to the peace agreement that binds political parties in elections to ensure violence-free polls. The National Peace Council on Tuesday, August 2024, had an interaction with the NDC to have a change of mind, but the opposition NDC remained committed to the statement by the party chairman Johnson Esiedun Ketia. Others have described the NDC's demands before signing to be a blackmail, which should be to help discuss this issue is Professor Sam Kwesi Jonah. He joins us via Zoom. Professor Kwesi Jonah is joining us to discuss this issue of not appending their signature, that is the NDC, to the Peace Council's documents, which binds all of them to be part of the elections and also to ensure that there is peace during the elections. While we look to establish connection with Professor Jonah, we will be analyzing the counter-campaign strategies by other people. It's barely 3 months into the 2024 general elections, and political campaign strategies have intensified with parties and candidates vying for the attention of the public. This has led to direct and counter-campaign strategies and messages among the parties and candidates. As the elections draw near, we can expect to see more of these counter and agenda-inclined strategies emerging. My colleague Samuel Magbo chronicles some of these competitive strategies implemented so far and how each party and candidate is leveraging their situation to seize the moment.
The 2024 elections, as many experts have called, will depart from the previous elections in many ways. Key among the divergence is the campaign strategies employed by political parties and candidates in the lead-up to the elections. The New Patriotic Party and its leader, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, started a novelty in his first major campaign tour of the country, the Youth Connect, to have direct engagement with the youth across the country. This strategy was countered with the NDC's youth town hall meetings, an engagement that also gave their flag bearer, John Mahama, direct engagement with the youth, providing him the avenue to respond to questions. As an additional campaign strategy, the NDC flag bearer availed himself for a media conversation where he addressed top journalists across the country and responded to their questions.
There's a hole that has been described variously as the world's most expensive hole.
I want to know if you still stand by this position.
His strategy was also countered by the leader of the Movement for Change, Alan Tramantin, who also organized a media engagement with top journalists across the country. The NPP, after a series of constituency tours, launched its manifesto on August 18, 2024, where it outlined all the policies it has in mind for the electorate. The NDC, in a counter move, has also announced its manifesto launch slated for August 2024. This move, some argue, is a strategy to take the attention from the NPP manifesto. Realizing this, the New Patriotic Party has also announced that its flag bearer will have an engagement with the media on Sunday, August 25, 2024, a day after the NDC's manifesto launch. With the current tug of war among political parties on campaign strategies, it is expected that the competition will intensify after each party has laid down their manifesto. But as the parties are leaning towards a media conversation, what become of the proposed presidential debate by the Institute of Economic Affairs? Are the parties realizing the presidential debate may not suffice for them, as suggested by pollster and director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa?
In terms of proving somebody's academic or prowess in debate, intellectual capacity, it helps if you are president with that capacity to interrogate issues He has not delivered anything.
The question remains, will these counter and competitive strategies make an impact and change the fortunes of a political party or a candidate in the December 7th elections? Only time will tell. Samuel Nyimabo, ABC News, Ghana.
Well, ahead of the elections, their parties have made some promises. Let's take a look at them. The Vice President and flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has promised to make coding and robotics a standard in second cycle institutions. This is amidst concerns by a section of the public that key sectors of the educational sector, including infrastructure and learning materials, are inadequate for the increasing number of students. The Vice President is, however, unrelenting in his digitization agenda, signaling an even more robust digital measure for schools should he win the 2024 elections. But how should the country deal with bridging the gap in adopting digital innovations in schools while ensuring the provision of basic amenities for students? Samoni Madbo has more.
As the world transitions into the fourth industrial revolution, advancement in artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and other technologies will be crucial for any country. Some experts have mentioned that countries may be left out of the fourth industrial revolution if they fail to adopt to new technologies. The African Union High-Level Panel on Emerging Technologies assesses that integrating robotic education into African schools can revolutionize learning, empower youth, and drive economic growth across the continent. In line with ensuring that Ghana is not left out of the fourth industrial revolution, the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has indicated that he will implement a policy to make coding and robotics a standard in senior high schools.
To prepare our children for the fourth industrial revolution, I will enhance the positioning of the educational system towards STEM, robotics, artificial intelligence, and vocational skills to cope with the demands of the fourth industrial revolution and job creation. My government will make coding and robotics standard in senior high school.
However, his promise has been met with skepticism, with some questioning how the policy will be achieved. Former Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Charles Ahetochega, says unless robotic and coding education is linked to the socio-cultural context of Ghana, it will be counterproductive.
We should be looking forward to doing robotics that is situated and structured to be suitable to the needs of the economy. But when we continue to do the robotics the way the children are doing it now, it raises a little bit of concern for me. I think that we should link all of that to our Ghanaian context and channel robotics and coding to what we really need in Ghana. But that is not what we are seeing. So if it will continue like the way they are doing it now, then I don't think that it is a very important thing to try and make compulsory or a standard at the senior high school.
The free SHS policy, as implemented by this government, has faced challenges with accommodation, feeding, and deficit in infrastructure, coupled with insufficient teaching and learning materials. While some of these challenges are being addressed, should the country take a leap in bringing another rigorous program, such as making robotics and coding a standard in high schools? Should the program not be targeted at STEM schools and improving their capacity and building more across the country? For now, it is just a manifesto promise. The framers may have a comprehensive implementation plan to ensure its sustainability. Samuel Nyimabo reporting.
Still on campaign promises, with about 107 days to the December 7 polls, Ghanaians, at least from now till the day they cast their ballot, should brace themselves for more campaign promises and job-breaking manifestos from the various political parties. So far, the National Democratic Congress has launched its youth manifesto at the UPSA, and the ruling New Patriotic Party launched its Bold Solutions manifesto for the 2024 elections in GSTS Takoradi. The other parties and independent candidates are being monitored on how theirs will be. As Ghanaians always witness the politicians in election years, there is the struggle for who owns which policy and initiative and who even announced it first. The blame game seems to be high, with with the two leading political parties, the NPP and NDC. Alan Tremantin also claiming NDC and NPP stole some of his ideas. ABC News wants to tackle these similarities in the manifestos as we wait to see what the main manifesto of the NDC will look like come August 24, 2024 at Winneba in the Central Region. So these are the manifesto promises of the NDC and the NPP, and we will look at the similarities between their manifestos. NDC says that it will train 1 million youth in coding, and you would find this in page 13 of the youth manifesto of the NDC. The NPP also says that it will train 1 million youth in digital skills. You will find that on page 19 and page 22 of the NPP's manifesto. The NDC also said that it would give free tertiary education to those who are living with disability or people with disabilities, and you will find it on page 7 of the youth manifesto of the NDC. The NPP also says that they will introduce a free tertiary education scholarship for persons with disability to remove financial barriers to pursuing educational growth, which is found on page 27. So where NDC is saying that 1 million youth in coding, they have limited it to coding. NPP is saying that we will do it in digital skills, any form of digital skills. That is NPP's. NDC is also saying that free tertiary education for persons with disability, and MPP is saying that free tertiary education scholarship for persons with disabilities, and it's to remove financial barriers to pursuing educational goals. Well, no wonder one says you're copying my manifesto or you are stealing the promises in my manifesto. We will see how much indeed one is copying the other or not. The NDC also says that the NDC government will establish a women's development bank. MPP says that it will establish a women's trade empowerment fund to support women-owned businesses. So where NDC is saying that we are going to establish a bank for women, and this MPP says that we are going to rather set up a fund for women's trade empowerment. The NDC also says that they will establish a $50 million fund to strengthen the fintech industry. MPP says they will establish a fintech fund with a seed capital of $100 million. Quite interesting from both of them. The NDC says that they would reduce the number of ministers and deputies drastically, and the operative word here is drastically. They do not mention a specific number of ministers or a specific number by which they will be reducing it. Well, NDC says that it will be less than 60, and the NPP says that they will cap the number of ministers at 50, so it won't be more than 50. NDC says that it will also be less than 60. So if we are looking at less than 60, it means that it should fall between the range of 50 to 59. Wow, interesting there too. The NDC promises that they will amend the 1992 Constitution to review, to cancel ex gratia. So they will be cancelling ex gratia. NDC does not believe in an ex gratia. The MPP says that it will engage Parliament and other stakeholders, including political parties, to review the 1992 Constitution to achieve effective national development. And on duties, the NDC says that NDC is looking at import duties. The MPP says that it will implement a flat rate for all importers, bringing predictability and stability on prices of imported goods. We talked about it a few days ago as part of the NPP's reliefs on taxes. The NDC also says that spare parts import, NDC says it will bring a spare parts import proposal, which is a game changer for the Oboso Kind Spare Parts Dealers Association. And the NPP says that it will stabilize the prices of spare parts through flat rates for all importers. Like the NPP said on Saturday, says that all importers will pay a flat rate so that the burden on the few will be lessened. So these are some of the similarities between the NPP and the NDC ahead of the polls in 2024 on December 7. The NDC says that and that is former President John Mahama. He says his administration will harness PPPs and BOT deals to boost infrastructure development. And the NPP says that it will increase PPPs as an important funding model for delivering public infrastructure projects. For the NPP, you'll find that on page 18. And for the NDC, Mr. John Mahama said that on June 10, 2024. For the NDC, they say that small-scale mining will look at Tree for Life Blue Water policy. So they are going to place a lot of emphasis on trees because we need trees to live, and our waters must be clear so that they are wholesome. The waters are wholesome for us to drink. The NPP says it will enhance the protection of our forests and biodiversity hotspots to restore our forests through reforestation programs. You'll find NPP's own on page 29 of their manifesto. The John Mahama, former president, said this about Tree for Life and Blue Water policy on May 15, 2024. The NDC says that it will carry out an aggressive bed for all program with the private sector to build accommodation facilities on tertiary campuses to provide bed spaces for students and arrest the accommodation crisis on tertiary campuses that has led to unbearable rise in hostel fees. You remember, it is in the youth manifesto, but you also remember that when he visited the University of Ghana as part of his tour to the Ayawaso West Wugon, he mentioned that he will be engaging with the private sector and businessmen from the private sector to get beds for everybody in tertiary institutions so that the issue of no beds in schools will be reduced or will be eradicated at all. The NPP says that it would increase the stock of students' accommodation in our public universities and other public tertiary institutions to address the housing deficit on campuses and make them affordable. This too, you find on page 27 of the NPP's manifesto. So these are some of the similarities in their promises by the NPP and the NDC, and we'll be looking at that. Joining us via Zoom is a policy analyst, Peter Tepe, to help us do justice to these policies from the political parties and what to expect from the others as the days go by. Good afternoon, Peter.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us on ABC News GH.
Thanks very much for having me as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. Having listened, watched, and monitored these parties' campaign promises, as an expert in policy, do you foresee these policies just as campaign messages, or some things that Ghanaians will take at heart, some things that Ghanaians need?
Thanks very much once again, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers and listeners. Yeah, indeed, we are in the season of politics again, and definitely we should expect messages of such nature. But there are two aspects of these political messages. One is to win vote, and others are also for the interest of Ghana. But mostly the target of all politicians are to win vote. And as a result, most of these policies that they bring out are policies that are tailor-made to win vote into their fold rather than the interest of Ghana. And so you realize that there are so many similarities in what each of them are actually proposing. But the challenge is that most of these proposals or policies are wholesome. Wholesome means that they are wholesale, and wholesale means that, they are just putting it out there and let's see how it will attract people. But as to breaking it down specifically to say what it will be done, we are not seeing it. And so, for instance, we are talking about digital as infrastructure example, the training, where you say it is NPP makes it general, whilst NDC is saying in coding. But don't forget also that in coding also, we have various aspects of it. And so, and at the same time, we also have our educational system. So are we going to channel it through our educational system, or these are specific youth that we are going to train? And which youth? Is it those who completed senior high or those who completed the university? Because the youth span between the senior high and then the university, even from JHS level as well. And so we need to have specifics on this to be able to see how it will be beneficial to the individuals and then the country as well.
Okay, but maybe let's play some devil's advocate here and say that in going too much into specifics, they may not exhaust the promises that they have. That's why they tend to broaden it so that maybe a lot more people can find expression under an umbrella of sorts of the manifesto promises.
So the reason why the country is always struggling with resources to finance these projects or programs is because of the lack of the specifics. And so realize that any time the parties come to power, there is a big challenge with regards to implementation of these policies. The reason is that they have not sat down to actually look at the specifics, what goes into it, so that they can be able to, find out the sources of funding for this. And then they also don't look at what actually goes into it. Where are we going to actually carve this out at a certain level? So they come into office and they realize that, unfortunately, what they wanted to do is either going to be too expensive for the consolidated fund, or there is no clear policy direction. And it is sometimes also going to conflict with what is already being studied in the various educational institutions. And then implementation becomes a challenge. That is the reason why you see that most politicians, leaders, they have very good policies, but the challenge is with implementation. That is why it is good that when you are bringing such a wholesome policy, which is wholesale to a certain category of people, you must come with specifics to let people know who is to benefit, who is it targeting. That is the reason why the specifics are very important. Other than that, they will come, either they will put it aside or they will do something different because they realize that what we wanted to do is not the way it is. That is the reason why I'm saying that it has to be specific. It's very important.
Well, should the National Planning Development Commission tie our political parties to the promise they make?
Well, that is how it should have been, but unfortunately it cannot be so until there is a constitutional policy, a constitutional requirement for that. Unfortunately, what we are seeing now are political parties trying to do something within their short tenure, which is the 4 years. The National Development Planning Commission has a long-term plan. And mostly, if you want to look at the rollout of these plans, political parties may come to power, and some of these plans, if they want to execute, will fall into a different regime. And every political party wants to do something to show that this is what I have done. That is why when they come, they are in a hurry to do projects that will let everybody see it, to be visible to them. And so if we want it to be tied to the National Development Planning Commission, then what we have to do is that in each thematic area, education, what does the country want to achieve in education within the next 10, 20 years? Tied to what National Development Planning Commission says. Then we look at their manifesto, say they tie your manifesto to this, so that if our National Development Planning Commission says that we want to build infrastructure in our senior high schools for the next 20 years, then every political party must submit or must propose a blueprint that will tie in this regard, such that we say, what are your blueprint to build infrastructure in our senior high schools? Then it ties in. What is your infrastructure? What is your policy to make education free at the university and at the senior high level? Because that is what we want to do. We don't want to do it wholesale. We want to do it in a progressive manner. Other than that, we will have political parties coming in with their own policies to be able to achieve certain things within a short tenure of their office. And that is a challenge. The National Development Planning Commission, unfortunately, has become like a white elephant. And so they have a very good policy, but nobody even knows what they have in stock for the country. Because political parties put that aside because it will not endure to their benefit. But what you said is very important. But to be able to achieve that, then we need to look at our constitution. That if the constitution says that all political party manifestos must be tied to our National Development Planning Commission, then something like Agenda 111, where 1 and 10 hospitals are being built by a particular political party. When they leave power, another party comes, they will not say that they also have their own plan in the health sector, and they are going to also build their own hospitals. Then these ones will be left in the bushes or whatever they are. They become a debt to the economy. We have to go and borrow money. Don't forget that all these things have been financed by borrowings. Then it is lacking. It is there. So it is very important that we try to look at this from that point of view. And the only way is to have a law to be able to secure that.
Okay. Sir, in your expert opinion, what are some of the policies that the nation needs at this moment?
So that's very important. There are certain sectors of the economy that policy proposals should not be left in the hands of political parties, like education, health, energy. These are very critical aspects of the economy. You need energy, you need education, you need health. Each political party have their own agenda they bring. So in fact, today, if one political party has a leader and that leader has its own plans for these sectors, when there's a change in leadership in terms of flag bearership, that flag bearer will also come with its own policies in that sector, which will be different from what the current one is having, even though it's the same political party. And so what I would say is that what we need to do is that education, health, and then energy. Let us have a blueprint, a national blueprint. If not all, let's have a national blueprint for these three industries, whereby we will have a national blueprint so that every political party manifesto will be tied into this blueprint. That irrespective of the party that we have, when you come, you tie into this. It will prevent so many infrastructure deficits that we have in this sector. Look at the housing, look at the health sector, for instance. So much gap. You go to the hospitals and there's a lot of problems that we shouldn't be facing. If we have a national blueprint, then what we know that we are making Kolebu very, self-reliant, such that you will not go to Kolebu and then you have dialysis crisis because there are no machines that are working. Because we have a national blueprint that will say that irrespective of the party in power, we have to buy this institution, this equipment. And so we need a national policy on this. And that is why we have to not leave it in the hands of the politicians, but let's have technocrats who are in charge of this, bring out the blueprint, give to the political parties and say that bring out your manifesto, proposals out of this blueprint that we have as a national one. Then in that case, there will be continuity so that even if there's a change of government, you don't come and you do your own thing, you continue from that regard. And that is what we need as a nation, to be able to build and close the infrastructure gap that we have.
So before you go, do you think our political parties do a cost analysis with their promises, considering the current state of our economy?
Exactly, no. None of them does that. And so you realize that most of them, what they are doing, they are promising, but none of them is telling us where they are going to get money from. You ask them and they tell you that when we come to power, we'll be able to, know what to do. When we come to power, we'll do it. Because they think that, when they come, they will borrow. That is the idea, that we will be able to borrow money to execute or implement our policies. And that is the focus. So there's nobody is thinking of sources of funding. Of course, no government can develop without borrowing. But the question is that, what are we borrowing for? Because most government projects are projects that cannot finance itself. They are not commercially inclined. So if government is building roads, you cannot put toll booth in all those roads that will generate enough income to be able to pay for the loans that we go for. But how do we prioritize it? And so, yes, they are doing it, they are not asking. And I think it is time for us to start asking politicians that whatever you want to do, let us know the source of funding to see whether it is feasible. If it is not, then we can be able to find a source of funding for it. Other than that, they will be promising, and when they come to power, they will be forced to achieve this within a short tenure. And then they will be relying heavily on borrowing, and then the economy will also be going backwards in terms of debt. And when it happens like that, it's you and I that will be asked to pay, just like we are being asked to pay now.
Thank you for speaking with us, Mr. Peter Tepe.
Thank you very much for having me as well.
Okay. Peter Tepe is a policy analyst. Well, away from borrowing, away from promises, a district court in the United States has awarded in excess of $111 million judgment debt against Ghana in favor of Ghana Power Generation Company, GPGC. The ruling follows Ghana's failure to fully comply with an earlier tribunal decision from the United Kingdom. It will be recalled that on January 26, 2021, a UK tribunal issued a final award after determining that Ghana breached its contractual obligations by terminating a power purchase agreement with GPGC on February 18, 2018. Ghana had argued that the foreign power company failed to meet certain contractual conditions, leading to the contract's termination, but the court disagreed. Ghana was accordingly ordered by the court to make full payment of the value of the early termination payment of 1.3 million cedis, together with the interest from $1 million, together with the interest that has accrued from it. Despite the ruling, Ghana only made partial payments totaling $1 million $897,692, leaving a significant outstanding balance. After unsuccessful attempts to secure the remaining payments from Ghana, GPGC filed a case in the US. The US District Court further noted that Ghana's legal team on some occasions failed to challenge or mount a defense against the judgment that awarded to energy firm Trafigura by the UK tribunal, a decision which has generated nationwide concern and public interests. Let's take a brief overview of the genesis of the development of this case. Well, so this is the Ghana Power Generation Company versus Ghana, and it was in 2019. The period was 2015. Ghana, the government of Ghana through the Ministry of Energy entered an agreement to Trafigura, an independent power producing firm, under the Ghana Power Generation Company purchasing agreement. And in this agreement, we needed power, we needed energy. Ghana didn't have the luxury of energy because we were going through some doom. So, and because of that, we entered an agreement with this company for Ghana to have some energy. And in 2017, the New Patriotic Party complained about excess power generation beyond the country's electricity demand. The Minister of Energy thus informed Parliament that it will save a lot more from termination of the agreements than paying for the electricity generation. So although we had entered the agreement in 2015, by 2017, the Minister of Energy had said that we would save more if we terminated the agreement rather than paying for the electricity generation. So he presented to Parliament an estimate cost for the termination, which was 402.39 million, and it's compared to an average annual capacity of 586 million each year. So that would cumulate to 7.6 billion USD. So that was presented to Parliament by the Minister of Energy. And in 2018, the Minister of Energy again terminated the agreement. He took into consideration the advice from the then Attorney General, Gloria Ekufu, which justified the termination on the grounds that the operation of GPGC was illegal for failure to obtain construction permits and others. Although we had entered an agreement in 2018, the Minister of Energy, via some advice from the former Attorney General, said that GPGC had failed to obtain construction permits. So in 2019, Trafigura GPGC commenced an arbitration proceeding because it believed that the government of Ghana had wrongly terminated its power purchase agreement. After we terminated the agreement, the company, Trafigura, said that we had done it illegally. And so the government of Ghana also counterclaimed the claim by Trafigura. It said that we hadn't breached any agreement. The government of Ghana was represented by Gloria Ekufu, who was the Attorney General at that time, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, who was the Deputy Attorney General at that time, and Mrs. Helen Awoziwu, the Solicitor General of Ghana. These were the reliefs that GPGC sought before the tribunal when they took Ghana there, to declare that EPA, the Environmental Protection in Energy Authority, had been validly terminated by GPGC. These were the reliefs sought, to declare that EPA has been validly terminated by GPGC on account of the government of Ghana's conduct, and order that the government of Ghana should pay to GPGC the full amount of the early termination payment, and the order that government of Ghana should pay all of the costs and expenses of the arbitration proceedings. And finally, an order that government of Ghana should pay a pre-award interest on the sum specified in the sub-paragraphs of the reliefs they were seeking. Meanwhile, Attorney General and Minister of Justice Godfred Yeboah-Dame has clarified that the Trafigura judgment debt is not a new issue. This clarification comes in response to reports suggesting that a U.S. court has ordered the Ghanaian government to pay over $111 million for defaulting on its debt. Speaking in an interview, Mr. Yeboah Dame explained that the Trafigura judgment debt was actually decided back in January 2021, and he further clarified that the recent court action was merely an enforcement order, noting that while the government had taken steps to make payments, it had not yet completed the full payment. Well, so this is by the Attorney General. Mind you, he was the Deputy Attorney General at the time that the judgment was made. And he says that the impression that is sought to be created by the publications that he has seen another judgment debt as a new judgment is not so. He says that the judgment is not a new judgment. The judgment was made way before he became the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice, and says that the case had already been decided, and so calling the case was just for a reinforcement for the government of Ghana to pay what it's owed. So it's a judgment that has already been made, but this is just an enforcement order, and an enforcement order is an account of a failure to pay a judgment debt which accrued way back in 2021 as a result of an award that was given at that time. So this is not a new judgment, and we should not see it as such. So this is from the Attorney General and Minister for Justice of Ghana, Godfred Yeboah Dame. Thank you for staying with us. Let's get into the world of business. In business, 44 oil marketing companies have defaulted on their duty to remit levies owed to the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation BOST, now known as the Bulk Energy Storage and Transportation Limited BEST. According to the Chief Executive Officer CEO of BEST, Dr. Edwin Profinsal, when petroleum products are purchased, the BEST margin is supposed to be collected by OMCs and remitted to the National Petroleum Authority (NPA) for onward transmission to BEST. These companies collected levies and margins from the sale of petroleum products but failed to remit the funds of nearly 60 million Ghana cedis to BEST. Here are some of the companies that owe BEST the levies. These are some of the companies that owe BEST, or formerly known as BOST, levies that they should have paid: the Best Petroleum Limited, the Black Rock Energy Limited, Bisvale Petroleum Services, Capstone, Seago Energy Limited, and Champion Oil Company. You can see the amounts that they owe the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Limited, which is now known as BEST. So these are some of the companies. They are part of the 44 companies that owe the Storage and Transportation Limited, and because of that, they have defaulted in paying. Meanwhile, National Security is pursuing directors of the 44 oil marketing companies that have disappeared with nearly 60 million Ghana cedis in levies owed to the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation. The Chief Executive Officer of BEST, Dr. Edwin Provinsal, said that National Security is tracking down the directors of these companies for possible prosecution, noting that BOST is in court with about 26 out of the 44 for payment of the money. Dr. Provinsal said that BOST has escalated the matter to the Economic and Organized Crime Office. We apologize for the technical issues. Let's take a break. We'll be back. Now let's get into the world of sports. For sports, in a recent development, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation (GBC) has released a detailed breakdown of its financial commitments to 6 service providers for the coverage of the African Games. The contracts, valued at a total of several million euros and dollars, were approved by the Sports Ministry. Notably, PGS and Quality Media Productions (SL) were contracted, and GBC's 24-hour African Games channel support. The ministry has since provided a breakdown breakdown stating that $2.5 million was paid directly to GBC, with the remaining $1 million paid to third-party service providers.
240 plus or 245 million United States dollars, right? And out of this, we got to even know, for instance, key among them was a whopping amount of $15 million, which amounts or works to close to or a bit over 226 million Ghana cedis, being how much was used to feed athletes for 18 days. For the event. So you realize that some of these things needed to be investigated. We wanted to know how many, athletes actually made it, how many actually got registered. In fact, we need to get a report generated by, for instance, the games management system, because the system must be able to tell us how many actually, registered and actually came to participate in the event. All these details we would want to know. Even the games management system itself, it's the cost of putting that together, and as to whether the standard we all know, or anytime we go to some of these events, either at the continental level, Commonwealth level, or at the Olympic level, you really notice that if you are even a journalist, that is going to cover the event, the process you go through, even the accreditation process, and then your tag that is given, the quality tag that is given. And we didn't see any of this. But do you know how much we spent? As we were told, it's $4.5 million for that. And so what actually went into it? And so I've even written officially to Athos, so that I need.
Let's take a look at some graphic presentations of the tournament overview, GBC's expenditure breakdown, and the amount spent on feeding the athletes. So other All-African Games, 53 nations participated with 2,644 athletes participating. It was a 15-day event, started on March 8th and ended on March 23, 2024. The number of sporting activities at the All-African Games were 23 sporting activities and 335 individual events. This is GBC's financial breakdown for the African Games coverage. They paid PGS a little over 2 million euros. They paid quality media production a little over $1 million, and Silicon Productions a little over 57,000 euros. The GBC 24-hour African Games channel, which provided support, was paid $105,000. And for positive communication, they spent $20,000 for the games. This is the discrepancy highlights. GBC claims that it only received $105,000, while the ministry stated that it paid $3.6 million, which was agreed upon, with $2.5 million paid directly to GBC. So you see the discrepancy between the GBC and the ministry. And this is our expenditure for feeding for Ghana. Okay, so Ghana's African Games expenditure feeding, this is how much we spent. The total alleged spending was $15 million on food, on feeding the athletes. We fed 2,644 athletes for 18 days. And per the breakdown, $5,678 was spent on each athlete for that period of 18 days, and spent $315 per day on each athlete. Per the current dollar rate in Ghana, each athlete was spent on 4,913 Ghana cedis each day. We have joining us for a conversation an anti-graft campaigner, Vitus Azim. Good afternoon, Vitus.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us on ABC News GH.
You're welcome.
Okay. Does the expenditure of the Ministry of Youth as presented to the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament smack of any wrongdoing that we should be worried about?
Well, the essence of submitting the accounts to the Public Accounts Committee, in fact, the audited accounts of the Public Accounts Committee, is to find out if there's anything that has gone wrong. So until the Public Accounts Committee has determined that certain things are unsatisfactory, one cannot jump to the conclusion that things went wrong. But you see, the problem with the Ministry of Sports programs is that they don't usually want to submit the budget in advance, not even to Parliament. Yet you go ask for a bulk amount. So when you do that, it's difficult to monitor whether certain things have not been done properly or not. You are supposed to submit a budget that is accurate and detailed enough for Parliament to be able to take a decision to approve or not to approve. Now, if you don't do that, you are compelling Parliament to make a mistake by just accepting the budget. And if you haven't done that, then it's difficult to monitor, to check the expense against the budgeted amount that has been approved by Parliament. And so for that, it's a bit difficult to determine.
So if Parliament... Sir, please go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So if Parliament in subsequent days determines that indeed we have spent monies that should not be spent, what must be done for us to recoup these monies spent at the games?
Oh, Parliament can ask that those monies are returned to the church. But if they also insist that, if they also disagree with what Parliament is saying, then that's where Parliament has powers to appoint a committee to go into the details to find out whether something has gone wrong or not.
So how can Parliament prevent some of these issues with their oversight responsibilities? It seems that we are always chasing the horse after it has already taken off. How can Parliament look at this?
Yes, that's the problem. So they can insist that they will not release, they will not approve any budget until or unless they have submitted a budget. But you see, what happens is people are very smart. You wait until the event is about to take place and you rush to Parliament. And Parliament will not want to be blamed for obstructing the country's participation in international football or sports. And I don't know how Parliament can stop that, but Parliament must insist that if you don't bring the budget early for approval, we will not approve it and the country will not participate. And take the blame for not allowing the country to go. That will ensure that subsequent ones, they will do that.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's get into the world of international news. Thank you for joining us. So in international news, Maria Brainas Moreira, the world's oldest known person, has passed away at the age of 117 years. Born in the United States in 1907, Brainas lived through 2 world wars and 2 pandemics. Her family announced her peaceful passing on X, sharing that she died as she wished in her sleep. She died as she wished, in her sleep, peacefully and without pain. She was recognized by Guinness World Records as the world's oldest person in January 2023 after the passing of the French nun Lucille Randon. Reflecting on her longevity, Brainas attributed it to order, tranquility, and staying away from toxic people. Despite her advanced age, researchers noted her impressive mental clarity and good health. Still on international stories, in Zambia, 400 dogs have died in the past month after consuming maize contaminated with high levels of aflatoxins, toxic substances produced by fungi. Maize, a staple food in the country, now poses a significant health risk to both animals and humans. Authorities are investigating the maize supply, focusing on 10 million companies. Although no human deaths have been reported, the situation is being closely monitored. This crisis comes amid a severe drought, further straining maize supplies that are crucial for 60% of the population. Well, thank you for watching the news. But before we go, let's take some entertainment news. 2024, the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture held a roundtable discussion with the leadership of the Foundation of Concerned Arts Professionals, FOCAP, to address concerns related to FOCAP's intending picketing. The meeting focused on FOCAP's demands for the establishment of a Creative Arts Agency Board and the appointment of an executive director. The chief director of the ministry confirmed that they had received clearance from necessary allied agencies and ministries. The ministry also assured FOCAP that by the end of August 2024, recruitment for a skeleton staff to occupy various positions will commence for the operationalization of the Creative Arts Agency Office. A copy of the approved organogram was presented to FOCAP, and interviews for the positions will start immediately. That is all in the bulletin for this afternoon. Thank you for joining us on our midday news. For more news, visit us on www.abcnewsgh.com. Interact with us on social media, ABC News GH. Thank you for joining us. Have a good afternoon. I am Abna Mante.